Got my screen set now. So again, I'm Amy Birch, and I'm a traffic engineer, transportation planner, and consultant that works on behalf of NDOT to help facilitate the traffic calming program. So you're here tonight to hear about the Valley Brook Road Plan. We had a meeting several months back in the spring, and we took down some notes, heard what people had to say, made some adjustments to the plan. And so we're here to tell you more about that plan and show more details about that. And then the next steps in the process. So we do have some folks that have joined online. So if at any point online, if you have some questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm monitoring that, so we'll answer those as we can. And then if you also want to unmute and ask questions, you're welcome to do that as well. I have a speaker on my laptop so we can hear you if you ask questions. So let's get started, and thank you for coming. So I'm going to go over some background history about this program and project, but we're not going to spend too much time going over that because I know we want to really look at the plan and talk about next steps. But the Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program that NDOT has focuses on residential streets like Valley Brook. And these are physical solutions that we install on the street to encourage slower driver behavior and get speed reduction. And one of the things that we show to illustrate this is this infographic about the correlation between a vehicle speed and a pedestrian's chance of survival if struck by a vehicle. So on the left, you have a speed of 25 miles per hour, and a pedestrian, if they're hit by that car, has an 89% chance of survival. And then if the speed goes up to 35 miles per hour, the chance of survival goes down to 68%. And then at 45 miles per hour, the chance of survival goes down to 35%. And this is some national data that's out there. So this is kind of what we're targeting through this program, particularly on streets that don't have sidewalks. And then as we think about vehicle speed and safety, I want you to think about how if at going a slower speed, you have an ability to avoid a collision altogether, a greater chance to avoid it because you have a wider cone of vision to see as you're driving. You have more time to react to something that's entered the road, slow down and stop and avoid the collision altogether. So on top of that, plus the severability of a pedestrian or another vehicle being struck at that speed, slower speed is just safer. So we're trying to encourage that through this program. So it's a neighborhood street application program. So we have requests that come in for traffic calming, and the program evaluates all of those applications twice a year. So we have over 500 applications for traffic calming requests in the city. So we have a data-driven process to identify which streets have the greatest need, and we apply that and select a certain number about every 6 months of streets that have been identified for the program, and then we go through this process with that. So the selection the spring selection we just did, I should have updated this, but in spring of this year, we selected 25 streets. So the program selected 25 streets based on our data points. And then just, I think it was the first week of September or the last week of August, we selected another 25 streets for the fall selection. So we're currently working through those as well. This street was selected last year, and we're still working through the design and working with the neighborhood to come up with a plan that we think will be effective and liked. So outside of the traffic calming program, we always want to point people to the Hub. If you're not familiar with the Hub, it's a really great resource that Metro has, Metro government, and it's a way to reach all the departments of government for services that you may need, a street lights out or a sign's been knocked down, a storm grate is clogged and causing flooding in your yard, this is where you can go to report that and get the attention from the department. So it's a means to disseminate the information and the request to the right department, the right person to solve the problem, or get you an answer if it's something that's not like immediately solvable. So it's calling 311 or hub.Nashville.gov, or you can download an app on your smartphone and you get a service request. You can follow up on it. It's just a really great resource. So please use that. So let's talk more about Valley Brook. This is just our map showing the street limits that we're looking at for this project. So it's the whole length of Valley Brook Road from both sides of Woodmont. And this is a snapshot taken from the program's online tracker map. So the streets that you may see kind of colored around, they're in various stages of the traffic calming program that we have on the right. So Valley Brook is highlighted green because we're still in this design and meeting phase, but when we move to the next phase, it'll change colors and you'll sort of be able to track it on our map. You can also see Cross Creek. You all know where Cross Creek is, but Cross Creek has gone through the program. It has a plan. It's been voted on. The vote was approved, and so that is just waiting for construction. It's in the construction phase right now. I believe the signs have been installed, but the cushions have not been installed. And then let's see. I think Gray Bar is similar situation. So. Yes.
Was that a red line?
Was that a red line?
Is that a red line?
On Glen Echo, sure, I should have mentioned that. So Glen Echo, it's pink. Sorry, it's on the application on file. So it has.
I believe it's Echo Hill.
Echo Hill. Right.
Oh,
which street are you asking about?
Off of Woodmont, headed down toward Fair Road. It looks like there's a pink line on that street. You see where?
Here.
Right?
Yeah.
There. That's Echo.
Echo Hill.
Yes.
Correct.
So what does that?
That means that there's been an application for traffic calming on Echo Hill, but it has not been selected. So it's being evaluated for traffic calming in this every 6 months or so that we evaluate and select streets. So it's not slated for traffic calming right now, but there has been a request. Yes, another question. No, I do not mind.
And Cross Creek, what kind of bumpers are they getting? You know?
Speed cushions. I think it's one set or two on Cross Creek between Valley Brook and Sugar Tree.
Are those the narrow or the wide? Or
they are the. I have some pictures later I'll point out, but they're similar to Sharondale. Have you been on Sharondale lately? Or Lombardi?
Lombardi.
They're similar to Lombardi. Yes, they're about 10 and a half feet long. And yes, they're rubber.
tall.
They're 3 inches tall and 10 and a half feet long. Anything else? So I'll talk a little bit about the data just to, we like to share data about the street. We measured the speed at 36 miles per hour. That's the 85th percentile speed on Valley Brook, meaning that 85% of the traffic is going 36 miles per hour or below. So 15% of the traffic we measured going above 36 miles per hour. The speed limit is posted at 25. We also measured the daily volume as just under 3,000 cars a day. And that's two-way traffic, both directions in one spot on the road. You know, you've got pretty narrow lanes, about 10, 11-foot lanes. You've got center line striping, no sidewalks, and this is classified as a local street. And again, this is the whole length of Valley Brook. It's pretty consistent. Oh, wait, somebody's taking a picture. I don't want to miss that. All right, so now we're going to get into the plan for Valley Brook. It's similar to what I presented a few months back, but we've made some adjustments based on what we heard. And so I'll talk a little bit about these details in these pictures, but we're recommending still speed cushions because the street is already narrow. We don't have intersections that we can really change the way the intersection operates. You've got some all-way stops along the street already. And we're still getting that speeding happening. So these speed cushions, one of the benefits of them is we can arrange them in many different ways. And that's kind of shown and represented in these pictures, meaning, you know, if their street is wider, we can put them wider across, more devices. They have different striping patterns. If we need to put one on the center line, we can put a yellow center line across that cushion like you see in the bottom right. They have arrow markings on them, and these are reflective, so they show up with your headlights as you're driving at night. We pair them with signage so that you know you're coming up on them as you approach the devices. And but NDOT likes these for a number of reasons, but one is because they have less impact to emergency vehicle response as opposed to those that go across the entire width of the street, because emergency vehicles have a slightly wider wheelbase than passenger cars and pickup trucks, and so they're able to more easily straddle these cushions, whereas a passenger car cannot. They really can't get around them. They may put one wheel off and one wheel on top, you know, and kind of do one on, one off, but they're still affected by going over the devices. So that's gets that slower speed there. Yes.
Question, you said Sharondale had 10-foot length on those?
Yes.
So are you proposing Valley Brook to have 14?
I am. I'm proposing 14, and that's because they are smoother. And that's kind of what we heard in the last meeting was these might be a little bit more comfortable. They're still effective, but may not be as abrupt and bumpy. So we've started using these in some places, usually on higher volume streets or streets that are higher classification like collectors. But that was based on the feedback that we got at the last one, that this might be a better solution for Valley Brook. So, and I do have some videos to show some travel over these. There's different
Chains on Leland, correct? For
Leland.
Gale and,
Right. That is a table, but it's
Yeah,
the similar feel. So if you've been down Leland over by Sevier Park,
like-
that is a 14-foot long. There are two of them on either side of a new crosswalk. Yes, that's exactly right. So this profile view here is just showing how long they are, and the length makes them smoother because you're not your first wheel isn't going over it and then your back wheel's going over it, you know, so it's not bump, it's just a glide over them. So they're modular. So when the road needs to be repaved, we can pick them up, you know, undrill them, store them. The contractor can store them and put them back. So the capital cost is really not lost. It's just, you know, some cost about, you know, taking them up and putting them back. And so that's another reason why NDOT likes these devices. And what else about the 14-foot? They are kind of tapered edges on the sides. And so the front ones ramp up and the last one ramps up, and the two middle ones are flat. So your vehicle can have all four wheels on the device at the same time at this length, not at some of the shorter lengths. So I'll move on, and we'll this is some of the data showing the effectiveness of these. This is with a 7-foot long cushion. So they maybe have a little bit slower speeds than the 14-foot ones, but the 85th percentile speed I spoke about earlier, before the installation was at 37 miles per hour, and then the after went down to 25 miles per hour, which is kind of our target. These measurements were taken between series. I didn't mention that before, but we put them in a series so we get a consistent speed along the length of the street. So we space them around 400, 500 feet apart. Typically, I think the ones in this plan are a little bit further apart to get fewer devices on the street. But that's how we measure that, is we measure that between the sets of cushions. So let's talk about the plan. This is an overview plan, and then I'm going to zoom into each street or each sheet of the plan. But just to orient you, the pink line is Valley Brook. We're showing the cushion locations on this kind of overview map, and those are the yellow trapezoids with the C's on them. I've also shown where the always stops are, because that's important, because at the stop signs, people are stopping. Generally, they're supposed to be stopping. So we factor that into our spacing of each set of cushions so that we can get kind of a consistent spacing along the length of the street. So these are at about 500 to 600 feet apart in most places. The ones over on the east side, this is a longer distance, and we heard that in our last meeting. So we had previously recommended 3 sets between the always stop on Knollwood to Woodmont. We had 3 sets in there, but heard at our last meeting that maybe if we reduce those, that might be more desirable by the people that live on the west side. So we've reduced that and kind of spread that spacing a little bit. I'm going to now show the kind of how they lay in the road and the street, just to show you some of the dimensions that we have. So we've got about 21 feet of pavement, got center line markings. So we have 1, and they're kind of almost centered right in the lane. We will space them in this space between, that's 4 feet distance apart. So too narrow that a vehicle can go between them. They can't, a vehicle, if they wanted to straddle the center line, they'd have 1 wheel on either device. If we widen that any, which we have experienced on some other installations, cars will kind of scoot through the middle, and that's not desirable. So then we have 2.5 feet on the outside. So essentially your wheels go on the edges of the device as you go over it, and they are, the cushion itself is 6 feet wide. So now I'm looking at the plan view. Now we're starting on the west side, and I'm going to read this, but the first one, so to orient you, Woodmont is at the north of the screen here. So you've kind of just entered the neighborhood past Bear Road, and we have our first device here, and it says it's 59 feet north of the driveway of 3421 Valley Brook Road.
My house.
There you go.
The only problem is I have a circular drive. Will it be, it'll be back because people will go through my drive if it's in front of my house. It looks like it's not. Looks like it's not.
It's before. So
Yeah, see my drive.
they can't go through your driveway and avoid it.
Okay, that's, if it's
And
in front of the house.
surely not. I mean, one thing that we know as we've installed these more is the signage is kind of important in placing it close to the device to keep people from going in yards. We will monitor that if that becomes an issue and correct it, but we did want to be mindful of not like a lot of sign clutter on the street as well. So that's just part of the situation with the people trying to go around them. So that's the first one. And then the second one, and these are about 400 to 450 feet apart. The next one is 65 feet south of the driveway of 3411 Valley Brook. So this is 3416, and then 3411 is on the west side of the street. So we're right there.
So how far away from the stop sign at Valley Brook Place in Valley Brook is the sentence? Okay.
Yeah, so these are kind of meshed together, or the other sheet is north of above this one. So there, again, we're trying to get that same spacing. So it's anywhere from 400 to 500 feet of spacing. And so, yeah, we're showing, that's where the all-way stop is at Valley Brook Place there. And then we've got another 500 or so feet. These two are closer together down here, but this one, the third one that you would encounter from the west, is at 120 feet east of the driveway of 2417 Valley Brook Road. And then the next one is just a few houses down. So this is our closest spacing on this plan. And it is at 93 feet east of the driveway of 2409 Valley Brook Road. So it's really in front of 2414 and 2409. Like those two houses are across from each other, and that's where that cushion set goes. All right, and then as you continue west, you encounter the all-way stop at Cross Creek. And then there's another set between Cross Creek and Bear Road. And that one is 57 feet east of the driveway of 2402 Valley Brook Road. And we measure these from the center of the cushion to the center of the driveway.
I happen to know that Greg does not want those there.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna,
His house.
that does happen, you know, that we place them because we're trying to, you know, get the right spacing so that we don't have bad behavior in the location where they're not located.
The entrance to his drive, every time he comes out of his drive, he's gonna hit it.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the always stop at Knollwood, I believe, and then these last two still going east. The next one is at 67 feet east of the driveway of 2302 Valley Brook. So it is essentially between 2307 and 2305. That's just our measurement for where to measure from. So it's right at between those two homes on Valley Brook. And then the next set, this is about 700 feet apart. This is further. This one is at 100 feet east of the driveway for 2203 Valley Brook Road. And then Hood's Hills is right here. And then it's just off the page with the intersection of Woodmont there. So we have 7 sets of cushions along the length. We have 3 all-way stops in there, and they're generally spaced anywhere from 400 to 700 feet apart in spacing. So I have a video, some videos. These are 14-foot cushions. As you can see, they can kind of glide right over them. This one's it's just repeating, so I'll just show it one more time. And this is another view. This road is been in utility work, but kind of see how vehicles travel over them. They slow them down, but it's not like to a crawl. Got some videos going back here, so I'm let it go one more time. All right. Okay, so we can come back to the plan, or I can talk more about the next steps and where we go from here. But are there any questions about the plan? I can certainly pause here and yes.
Have y'all looked at what happens to Echo Hill Road when you put these speed cushions on Valley Brook? That's what you're gonna do, is funnel all the traffic up to Echo Hill.
And then they'll still reach Valley Brook somewhere and have to go through some cushions.
We've already got a speeding problem.
Mm-hmm.
People fly down that street, and then the street becomes very narrow. So when traffic encounters each other going opposite directions, it's extreme. It's already a big hill with limited sight distance on some houses. And we just do not need that kind of.
You will funnel traffic on
I
that,
mean, it's like water.
no doubt.
Traffic is like water. If it's thwarted, it's gonna go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So when y'all.
Yeah, I understand.
seeing all these.
Sure.
They're gonna come down.
So what are we supposed to do if you funnel traffic on the street?
You know, there could be some, I hear what you're saying. There could be some redistribution of traffic that does that. We will certainly, monitor that. Your street is in the program or has applied for the program. We may need to collect some additional data in the future to see if that has come to fruition, this concern. But I think our goal is to calm the traffic on this street that has been identified as a need and had shown the greatest. Yes.
I think from a practical standpoint, what they're saying here, it's gonna happen, you're gonna have to do here, Hill and to Valley Brook to make a difference in our neighborhood. Because it's gonna happen. And then you are very old footprint hold you.
I mean, Woodmont Estates is a design community
Right.
created by the Frederick Law Homestead Company. It's the only world famous architectural design, park-like neighborhood in all of Nashville.
Right, but we've, you know, there's been a request and an identified need of some calming that's needed because the speeds are high and people are not obeying the limit. And so because of some of the curvature on the street and the way it's designed, as you're driving, and if you're driving above the speed limit, you know, and you encounter a pedestrian where there's no sidewalk, it's harder to avoid them because or see them in advance when you're driving too fast.
When was the application? for road?
I'm not sure about that.
Because I believe, if I'm mistaken, I believe that the application was made in the name of Woodmont Estates. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I'd like to know when the application was made for Valley Road and when the application was made. Because it could have been all at the same time.
It could have been.
So that made me wonder why y'all are singling out Valley Brook as opposed to the other streets.
Right. So for anyone that's online, I'm just going to repeat. The question is, when was the application for Echo Hill applied for, and when was Valley Brook? And they may have come in together, and why is the program separating the two streets? I can get back with you about the time period of the application, but unless anyone here knows that actually did the application, but I can get back to you on that. But the program looks at a street by street basis because we measure the speeds on all the streets that have been applied for, and we look at those on a street by street basis. So that's just part of the program. Mm-hmm.
This traffic is seeming not, I mean, big.
I certainly understand your concern, and I think, unfortunately, this is how the program is done, one street at a time. You can always reapply. We'll collect new data on Echo Hill, and it may demonstrate that there's a need for traffic calming on that street.
Amy, as the traffic has increased, we're noticing that people coming from Harding Road, they'll turn on Valley Road. The ones coming from Hillsborough turn on Echo Hill, because that's the first cut through. And that's, that's what, it's gotten worse lately. I've noticed a lot of it cutting between because they're coming from Hillsborough. That's the first left you take to get to Green Hills. Where if you come in the other direction, you take Valley Road. So the two, you know, they run into each other.
Yeah, right.
I think, the personality of something.
Yeah.
You mean behind the church?
Yeah, just driving down Woodbine.
Well,
Left on the valley top, they don't, that's the first one.
that's true, but I said, that's a good question. What's the-
Back up, you can't get across.
Yeah, it's close spacing to Hillsborough, so they miss that and then come back around.
It's a longer drive.
Oh. I'm gonna skip this one.
So this is the final plan that's gonna be presented. We can't give you any feedback and ask for it.
Well, I'm not sure that any more feedback is, going to come up with a different plan.
But you're telling us this is the final plan, no more feedback accepted.
If there's something like that we can do to modify this plan, we can certainly do that. But I think that there's, some folks that would like to see the speed cushions installed and maybe some that do not. And that's why we have this voting process to allow the neighborhood to vet that out. And so
This is the plan.
this is the plan, correct?
When are you
Yes.
gonna install
It's going to be a while. If at all. Yes. The question.
The question, I know several neighbors that aren't here were asking if there were other alternatives to the speed bumps, just having to deal with them. And I agree that Echo Hill should be part of this plan. It's directly affected by it. But also, a lot of people don't want that many speed bumps and reduce speed bumps. They were thinking maybe one in between each stop sign area, so 3 total, maybe.
I mean, that's, that's.
Sorry, I'm-
Free stop, I think that's not 10 times.
So,
That was, or looking at.
Yeah.
it was the highest one.
I think when we've had this sort of situation before,
Yeah.
modifying the plan, but still having the cushions in,
Count one.
our take is that it's, even if we modify it, remove some, it's not going to change a no vote to a yes vote. But that may be a wrong assumption. And in the meantime, what we're doing is sort of diluting the plan. And so sometimes when we space these out too far, what happens is that drivers get kind of annoyed, but they know there's only one, so they do the speeding, and then they make up time, then they slow down to go over the one device, and then they speed again to try to make up the time. And it's kind of a, just a mental situation of how they perceive how long it takes to get through the street. So we're trying to not encourage worse behavior by only installing one set of cushions. When we have spaced them out, we've experienced that. We've had residents call and say, you didn't put enough and now we need more, we would like more because they're too far apart. So, it's a balance. We have a lot of things we have to look at, like curvature and hills and driveways, and try to avoid all of that. And try to get, the idea is that if you can see the next one in the distance in front of you, that you're not gonna bother to speed up to then slow back down.
One of
So-
the, in terms of the alternative, I did a little informal survey about 150 people. One of the comments came back was, what about using the skytop cameras used to track license plates and then give people tickets? If Metro had enough police, for about 200 meetings understaffed, and you could have
Right.
police here, you wouldn't need this. And if we had sky cameras like they do in Berlin to track and give speeding, but you could also stop.
Those are some ideas, but unfortunately, it's not part of our program. We don't have, we can't do that through this. This is NDOT's program, not
Well,
the
these
police
cameras-
department.
No, but it can be.
Can I ask you one more question? about
Yes,
this?
of course.
Say, what we know is gonna happen is traffic gets slowed up to Echo Hill Road. So we then say, okay, this didn't work, and we can't go to our mailbox. We got people unable to dodge traffic when they're standing at their mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
So how long would it take at that point when we say, we're going to get killed if y'all don't change this? How long before we get done on Echo Hill?
They killed the one.
It's hard for me to say because of how we select is, we compare all the applications that we have on file for the need and match that with the funding that's applied at that time for how many projects we can do. So I would say yes, but I'll say, we get feedback on installations and make some adjustments. So, and we have the before data on Echo Hill before this is installed, or if it gets installed. We would have that and be able to compare and see if there's been some shift in traffic.
Did a prior.
Because there's an application that's been applied for Echo Hill, we have data for that street already. I couldn't tell you, but we would have collected it sometime since the application went in, so it could.
Of course, only people on Valley Brook can vote on this, whether it affects anybody else or not.
That's the way the program is.
People get to vote on this.
I think it's 53. I have that in a later slide.
Everyone that lives on Valley.
Everyone that owns property on Valley Brook, correct? Yes, another question.
You mentioned in our first meeting, there were 85 approved streets at that time. Speak of, how many of those have been completed and how many are still to be completed?
Many of them have been completed. I really don't know that answer right now. I apologize.
Just kind of get stagnant about time frame.
Yes.
Not Valley Brook. See kind of what that would be.
Correct. So from here, where we will go, I believe, is we will do the balloting. And so postcards will go to all the property owners on Valley Brook. And you will have a 6-week window to vote yes or no for the project. And then if 66% of the project of the voters vote in favor of the project, then it will move into the construction queue, which is still some time. We say about 8 to 12 months. We're starting to catch up on our backlog, so we think it's shortening, so it might be less than a year before it installs. Yes.
So potentially, Echo Hill, that could be a 3-year process.
Right, but this one's not going to be in.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Based on what you're telling us as far as.
Let me also point out, many of us did not get notices of this, did not get the postcards. I did not. All the people that I talked to who again asked me to represent them here tonight, none of them received a postcard about tonight's meeting. So when the vote comes, I hope we're not going to be excluded from.
No, that's certainly not intentional.
The notice of this meeting.
I do not know. Some people got the notices.
No, I know, but I
No.
called 6 families, none of them received.
We do find that people don't notice them. They get lost in the mail or just, thrown away.
Watch carefully, I knew this was going to cover some of what you never.
Well, I'm sending notices to people on the.
That's correct. I know. But, we have a job to complete projects, and we believe that, expanding and getting, a full neighborhood done is a little harder to do. And where we're trying to invest the funding for traffic calming is on the street that has demonstrated the need at the time. So that's. And I understand that this is, it's not a perfect program by any means, but what we're attempting to do is slow vehicles down.
Did I understand that if a certain section did want them and the other, that could be done too?
I think we would potentially consider that, but
You put
We-
the other,
the map,
the one with the section.
I'm sorry. Which one?
It would have the boxes with the different sections.
Oh, yes.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Mhm.
In regards to the placement of the speed bumps or table. You said that there is a way that you could adjust, right? Is that correct?
Adjust them, meaning
Yeah.
where they located?
The design, where they were placed on this.
Sure.
I feel like we talked about that.
So that's mostly based on what the width of the street is, what the striping pattern on the street is. It meaning, you know, if it was a really wide street, like 30 feet wide, we would probably have 3 cushions across the width of the street. This street is narrow, it's 21 feet wide, so we only can fit 2 wide on there. We also have the ability to lengthen them, like we made these 14 feet instead of the 10.5 foot that was previously recommended. And then, you know, there's other things that we're looking at in terms of placement, like driveways. We don't put them right at the back of a driveway. We want to have plenty of space between your driveway and the cushion. Our minimum is 15 feet, but we're nowhere near that on any of these. We're much further away from those driveways. So that's kind of where we are on that. That's what I was meaning about the adjustment of how they go.
That can't be on, the one between Cross Creek and Nova. There are only 3 houses there. And I know the driveway is, in comparison with where you show that, that is not 15 feet away from the entrance of the driveway. It's a new driveway.
I agree
For
with
that
that.
new house.
And there's one like right in front of my driveway, there's no way it's, where's my? And I was like, that's great.
Okay.
Curious as to,
We don't like that.
yeah.
Um,
It's like, my question is like, who do we talk to?
you can talk to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The street number
Oh.
2, like if we wanted, if that stretch did, well, everybody on our stretch wants them. I haven't talked to anybody who doesn't. But if, you know, then if the vote came and we were outvoted, could we still get them on that end? 'Cause people that turn off, they fly down there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and we had that 4-way stop installed at Valley Brook Place because people were, and it didn't help. We thought that might help.
I think it's something we would consider if that was the case.
I think there are a lot of people on the other side who oppose this. We would support it if it was just on that side.
That's the straightest portion.
Mhm.
And then, you know, that's up to everybody else.
I know that I heard at the last meeting that there were people on the east side of the street that did want this.
Everybody else.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see that in the vote. Yes.
So you're saying that you're having all or nothing, see, if you don't have that 66% approval, and we can regather or reconvene and.
Not typically. We have not done this before, but we recognize that this is a kind of a unique street. So I would have to, you know, check with the higher ups at NDOT about that decision. So I do not know that answer. So, okay, I'm sorry, I've been flipping back and forth.
That you have to have to approve.
Correct, 66%. And then, yeah, like I said, the ballot is a 6-week window, and then it would move into construction. If the ballot does not pass, you know, if we don't reach the 66%, which does happen, we, a number of occasions, we have some that do not pass. We put together a Plan B plan, essentially, and it will be something that does not include physical measures in the road. So it would be radar feedback signs, most likely.
Would that include painting or any of that?
It could, but like we don't, your street already has center lines, so I don't know that there's, you know, additional lines or paint that would go in that. Or are you talking about like this speed limit marking on the pavement or something like that? We haven't done that in a long time because we just kind of found that it wasn't as effective, but it would mostly be the radar feedback signs is what we've been doing. So the balloting, just to give you more information about that, it's an online ballot. So the postcards and those would come into your mail, and it's a 6-week window. These postcards have a unique ID. And so when you go to the QR code that takes you to the online voting portal to vote. You enter your address, your unique ID. That's how we make sure we don't have duplicate votes and so forth. And then you can vote yes or no. And if 66% vote in favor of the project, then it would move forward. And that's 66% of those that vote, not 66% of all the properties on the street. We'd like everyone to vote, but it just doesn't happen. If, like you were mentioning earlier, that, the vote's open and out there, if you don't get that postcard, reach out to us, to NDOT. There's an email address at the end of the slideshow.
Could these be emailed to people as well as mailed?
Right, we don't have everybody's email address, so this is the most direct way we can reach property owners, particularly because some property owners aren't even local, so the postcard goes to a different address than the local address. But yes, we can communicate with you. We can give you your unique ID code and make sure that you get an opportunity to vote if you don't get your postcard in the mail. And then this is the ballot zone, 52 eligible properties. So any property that has that abuts the street, side yard, front yard, so forth, that abuts the street would have opportunity to vote. Vacant properties do not. And, commercial businesses, I don't think we have any of those, but commercial properties are not eligible to vote. It's just residential properties and nonprofits like churches and schools. And it's 1 vote per property. Many people vote twice, but we have to weed out the duplicate votes. And it's 52 properties. Okay, so here's the email address. If you're mine and the NDOT Traffic Calming email address, if you're not receiving the postcard, then we can get you that information. So
Go
you,
back to the wonders of Fort Wayne.
yes.
You can see real quickly, Echo Hill is, right, this is the feeder if this is done, so we need to see how we can try to get that in.
I can talk to people. That's the best I can do, but I'll say that we have not been doing that
I'm
in the
just looking at
program.
that.
So-
I'm
It's
just looking at
It's a
that.
concern.
So you're saying that when you do something like this, you give no consideration to what?
Not no consideration, but this is a unique situation, I would say, in that maybe there is a street that can give that same movement with minimal.
That just shows it real clear.
But as a whole,
Sure.
we can't predict how much traffic is going to divert, if any. Our goal is to design this such that it's just gets you to drive the speed limit, and that's not too cumbersome.
Well,
And that's why we-
the speed signs that are posted on across the creek are 20 miles an hour, speed limit is 25.
Yep.
So it's below the speed.
Right. That's kind of the
Would
design.
it be cheaper to have a cop like they do in Bellmead and say 25 and stop a few people and then they
Mhm.
stop? But if
Yeah.
you put those speed bumps in, it's going to be very costly. It's very costly to change all the signs to 20 miles an hour.
Cop just stops it for a while. We tried.
Right, they can't be there all the time, on all the streets in Nashville, right? We've got this speeding issue happening all over the county, all over the city. And like I said, we have, over 500 streets that have requested traffic calming. We cannot have police there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
No, of course, that's not a problem.
It's just temporary.
Right. Absolutely. We hear this comment and understand it, but we can't rely on the police department to do that job as well, all the time, that often. That's why we modify the design of the road to get that behavior through the design of the street.
You can't treat one street.
So, and so, let's see, this section here, well, if I'm looking at Echo Hill, this is, if they'll still go over one cushion in that location, I think. If we are to put them on that side of the street. So maybe that's,
Right in front of my house.
but, you know, where we would commonly go in this program is to vote and let the neighborhood decide, or the street to decide what we go forward with. And if this is not favorable, then we would come up with a different plan, like I said, that doesn't have the speed cushions. Yes, ma'am.
Pretty much Switzerland on this, but if you're going to think ahead and vote it down and have radar flashing signs, think about if you want that flashing in your front yard, 24 hours a day. So consider the radar signs, in your front yard too, so.
If we look at other cities that address this problem in these speeding neighborhoods, and one place in particular that I'm aware of, because I got hit by a couple times, is Selma, Tennessee. They're controlling 64 and 45. One set of cameras, 24/7. You can get a ticket automated off of that. So I really,
Yeah, we're not doing that to my knowledge, and
cost-wise,
Nashville.
I'll be effective, but
Right.
24/7.
that's a above this kind of program
Understand.
situation.
Just ask.
Yep. In the first meeting, we did talk about some other tools that we have, but they're not really suited for this street because the street's already narrow and the intersections, the way they're designed, we can't really put traffic circles in there, like the circular islands. Those wouldn't work at those intersections because most of the intersections are already always
It's
stopped.
designed that way.
Right.
Got the layout of what they planned for,
Mhm.
put circles there with trees.
But they're these kind of angled intersections now. So I'm hoping to, sort of find out if we want to move forward with the vote so we can do the balloting and kind of get a resolution here. We can retool the plan, but this is kind of what works, I think, on this street to get the driving behavior that we're trying to achieve. And what we did do is we lengthened the cushions. We typically on a street like this would put the 10.5-foot long cushions, but we went for the longer ones in this case to try to make them a little smoother, not as cumbersome, and because that's kind of what we heard at the last meeting. So those are the things that we changed. We also reduced the number of cushions on the east side of the street. I would say that we should let the neighborhood decide and do the voting of this plan. Is that?
Go for the vote.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
I think those should cut down on the number of issues.
Cut them down again. What about the folks that are in favor of this plan? Do you see a benefit in, I've tried to share with you what the drawbacks of putting fewer sets of cushions on the street, which is that we may encourage behavior that's even worse than today because people might speed. If there's only one cushion, they may speed pretty fast, slow down at the one cushion, and then speed up again to try to make up that time. But if they know that there's a series, then they are more likely to drive just a consistent speed along the street. So that's why we don't limit the number. We want to put them along the length at appropriate spacing that's, typical
I think other
guidelines.
people on Valley Brook in each section realize the speeding, like our section is, I don't know if the second section from Valley Brook Place to Cross Creek gets the speeder like we have.
Because it's a curvier part of
Yeah,
the street.
and That's, so a lot of people who are opposed to it don't have the speeders. Or, you know, that long section to me would be a speed thing from behind the church there. But from our little thing from Woodmont to Valley Brook Place, it's just a racetrack.
And they're turning on across the street because they're trying.
It's on the street, yeah.
The other side.
And
But
Bill,
I want to be supportive with them all on your side. I like to see it, but it ruins everything else.
hey, Bill, on your note, 37, I think they tracked it for 37-mile-an-hour average. You and I both
Oh,
know.
no, you get your mail, you take your life.
It's much faster than 37.
Yeah.
It's more like 50.
And when you give them this, they give you the finger.
Yes. Wow.
So, but it's, yeah, it's exactly.
They don't go where they can.
But we see, I mean, on our section, it's random. And like I said, this from Valley Brook Place on around, like Cindy, I don't know if you get people that speed on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They,
I'm right to across from Cindy.
Oh.
Recently, 12 minutes on. Yeah, we're outside a lot, but it is, it's live.
okay, that's.
Yeah, she got a car, yeah.
You're on the west side? Y'all are on the west?
24:15.
And this goes back to the first round of speed. You know, the incorrect speed.
Yeah. Yeah, those were, right, those were short and uncomfortable.
You know, at the same time, people were flying over this, honking horns, protesting.
Yeah.
That was even before traffic comments. I don't know who got that done. It was, somebody just dumped a bunch of asphalt and just made it into a hump. That was hard.
Right. And yes, I would say the city's learned a lot from that experience and,
But there was even
and I think, you know, residents all across Davidson County are experiencing these in on a lot more streets. You know, they're installed in several streets in Green Hills, in this neighborhood, in West Nashville. So people are learning how to travel over them, that they're not that abrupt and
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
Leland, have y'all done any post-installation
we have not.
data on that?
We have not. Mm-mm. That I know of.
very calm. Even the 10 foot's on Sheriff that bad.
Yeah. Okay. So are we in agreement? Let's move this forward. Let's find out the answer.
Asking for a vote, I'm just gonna say.
No, I don't know. I'm asking.
How many people actually live on you get shelter? That's how we do it.
Well, and you two you're on the corner, so y'all are part of it.
One side of my street available.
Mm-hmm. So, so that's most of you, are on Valley Brook. And so are we all ready to move forward?
What else is there? What else?
I mean, the only other plan I would think is that it would be just a radar feedback plan. And I think that there's value in determining if there's support for the speed cushions, because that's, you know, a more effective tool in our toolbox to see if that's what the, 66% or more want on the street. And if not, then we will have a plan B, which would be some radar feedback signs and maybe some other signage.
We have to take the vote.
So we will do the ballot.
Yeah.
Go with it.
All right.
Take a vote now.
Oh.
Whether the majority wants to go forward.
Yeah, I guess I'm at a place where I don't know what we would do otherwise if we didn't just move ahead to the ballot. I mean, if there's,
Present two options to vote on, and then people vote on both at the same time.
no,
If to the sentence.
that's just how we've been doing it. Yes. It's a great, we hadn't done that. It's a great thought. but, I think we're typically just asking people to vote on whether or not we go with the vertical measures. And, on the postcards, these plans will be posted online. And so the link on the postcards will take you to the plan. So you'll be able to look at the plan in detail. Anybody that wasn't at this meeting can see the plan, so they know what they're voting on.
When would the postcards go out?
We would get them out in 2 weeks,
And you got how long
a 6-week,
to get that?
to get the votes in. Mhm.
From now.
From when the postcards are sent is 6 weeks. And so the closing date of the ballot will be on the postcard. So when you get it in the mail, you'll know, your council member will know, when the voting opens and closes, and, can advertise that in any other, communication that she may have. The voting is online. It is all online. If someone cannot vote online for any reason at all, there's a contact information on the postcard to get some assistance to vote otherwise. So we try to make it easy and accessible. But if there's any trouble, you can reach out. And again, if anyone here, you don't get your postcard, or you're talking to your neighbor and they didn't get theirs, or they lost it in the mail, or didn't notice it, you can reach out to NDOT or myself, and we can help with that process to make sure that they're able to vote. Yes.
Go ahead.
I would like to say one thing that I have heard is how many speed cushions for, across the street?
I think it's 2 sets.
There's 2 sides.
Yes. In the same direction, 2 signs in the same direction.
There's one going and one coming.
Okay, yeah, I think it's 2 sets. It might just be 1, but I believe it's 2. And that's online as well, that plan. Yes.
So after the vote's been tabulated, you mentioned it would be probably 8 to 12 months before construction. Is that
Correct. And we post the results of the vote online. So after that date closes, you can go to NDOT's website. It's TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov, and you can find the results. We don't post individual results or anything. It's just, the percent of favorable votes and whether it passed or not. So then you'll know what to expect after that.
So is your farm the entity that actually moved this farm?
Yes.
You're an independent firm. Is that-
Yes.
You work for the.
NDOT.
Sells the, you work for the company that sells these cities.
No. No, we do not work for the firm that sells the devices. No, no, we work for NDOT as a engineering and planning consultant. Never. Mm-mm.
But you were at the meeting.
So I think that's where we're going from here. Let's see how the vote goes, and then if it's not favorable, we'll do a plan B. Thank you for coming.
Correctly,